Hello and welcome to my review for Annihilation, the brand new Netflix movie. I saw someone on Twitter say, I dare you all to talk about Annihilation without mentioning the fact that you wish that it was playing in the cinema. I can't do that. I have to talk about the fact that I'm kind of disappointed that Alex Garland's latest film, Annihilation, was not getting a theatrical release for most of the world. I think it was just America and another country that got it in cinemas. The rest of the world, Paramount decided, this is too much of a thinker's film, let's put it to Netflix. I mean, it was great to be able to watch it on the day of release from the comfort of my own sofa, but it is a film, especially Annihilation, that would have benefited so much from seeing it on a big screen and seeing it with big sound. Because for me, when I think about Annihilation, I think about the visuals and I think about the sound, you know. But it's more than that. It's more than just an audio kind of visual experience. It's a great story and a film that I was keenly anticipating. I think I saw half the trailer last year and I just turned it off. Said, yeah, I'm in, I'm invested, I want to see what this is like and just experience it for the first time without knowing too much about it, which I think is the best way to check it out. I'll avoid spoilers as best as I can. The film stars Natalie Portman as Lena, or Lena. I can't remember actually how you pronounce it. That's really bugging me now. Regardless, Natalie Portman, she plays this biologist. She works with cells and that kind of research, and she's ex-military as well, and she's trying to get over the fact that her husband is missing, presumed dead. He was also in the military, that's how they met. His character's played by Oscar Isaac, Kane, and he's been missing for 12 months. He would go on these secret missions, he couldn't tell her anything, so she didn't know where he went, where he could be, and she doesn't know anything, so she's trying to move on from this. And then he turns up again. And this is all in the beginning of the film. And a kind of a mystery of where was he, and also he doesn't quite seem himself, is the central kind of motivation of Lena's character throughout the film as she meets the government, which is related to her husband, and she finds out about this area called the Shimmer. We see at the beginning of the film that something comes down from the sky near this lighthouse on the coast. And over the years, I think 3 or 4 years, it has grown in size and it's just constantly expanding. And so the government are trying to find out what this thing is. You know, it's in a state park, so it's kind of, you know, out of the way. But they've made all these excuses so that the public doesn't know anything about it. And they're trying to investigate, obviously. But anyone who they send inside this kind of dome of energy, the Shimmer, doesn't come back. They found out nothing. They can't penetrate it. They can't find out, you know, with scanning, with satellites, nothing. They don't know what's in there. They don't know why no one will come back out. And through a series of events, Lena decides to join a crew of women for the next mission to go inside the Shimmer because she feels like she needs to find out what happened in there, what's in there, and everything that goes along with that. There's a core group of women led by Dr. Ventress, played by Jennifer Jason Leigh, who's just great, and they all have a reason to be there as well. It's kind of fleshed out as to why they're going on basically a suicide mission, because no one's ever come out. The mystery of it, the build-up to it, the anticipation of it, is really involving. Like, I found myself getting so wrapped up in the story and the acting, and it's a film about loss and grief as well as these other characters. They've gone through things, and that very much informs their journey into the Shimmer. But I immediately found myself thinking, this isn't really playing out the way I thought it would. You know, when they walk into the Shimmer, I expected it to be this big kind of build-up with music and kind of the as they go inside, but they just quietly walk in. You know, and then we cut to them kind of waking up in a tent a few days later, and I'm like, huh, he didn't really make as big of a deal of that as I thought he would. And it's the beginning of the film doing things in a different way that I was not anticipating, which I found myself really enjoying actually as the film went on, because it was like, okay, this isn't normal. You know, this isn't doesn't feel like it's retreading other films in that sense. It just felt a bit more fresh of a take on this kind of a story, while I feel like this film very much felt like Aliens, it felt like The Thing, it felt like the video game The Last of Us, you know, in terms of the aesthetic and the production design of everything that happens inside the Shimmer. So I felt all these different influences of other stories, but not in a way that felt too derivative, because I was invested in the characters and this weird world that they enter into, which isn't really too far removed from reality. It's not like this complete, you know, wonderland. It's just, it's what you'd expect, you know. It's Earth. It's that area that they're going into in the state park, but it's it's slightly different. Things are changing, and it's about cells, and so obviously Lena is perfectly suited to go in there to see what's going on, to figure out what's going on. And so the idea of Natalie Portman's character actually kind of figuring out what is going on inside there and what's happening isn't too far removed from believability, because that's her job, that's her specialty, you know. It's kind of part of why she goes in there too. And it's just it's a journey movie in that sense, but just different, you know. And I could go way into this film if I really wanted to, if I was going to talk spoilers and so on. And I do have a quasi theory about the film. Maybe I'll talk about that at the end. I'll do a tiny bit of a spoiler talk, but I loved the darkness of the film and the lights of the film. You know, inside the shimmer, you'll see this kind of these kind of fractal lights coming in, and it's not overdone either. It doesn't feel like a kind of a lens flare fest. It's this kind of subtle thing, but it's noticeable, and it's otherworldly without pushing it too far into, you know, crazy fantasy. I felt like, to the point where I almost felt like this is something that could happen. You know, it didn't feel too fantastical. Again, like I said, I really like the acting. The acting was so strong, especially Natalie Portman. She's great, but she's really good here. Jennifer Jason Leigh. You know, I will say that it's a bit odd that they all walked in without even wearing masks. You know, I mean, you'd expect them to go in with like hazmat suits, you know, but at the very least, like an oxygen mask. You know, they don't know what's in there, but they just walk in. And I get that, you know, you need to kind of see the actors' faces and stuff, and connect with them on that emotional level as far as watching a film. But, you know, even just going in with masks and then realizing, oh, we can breathe, I don't know, would have been maybe a little bit more believable. But that's just a minor nitpick, and it gets really dark. It gets really disturbing. There is a kind of scene in the film that dives straight into the kind of horror pool of storytelling, and it just is one of the most eerie things I think I've ever seen. You know, I don't really get scared of films, but it really, really creeped me out in a big bad way. And it's still with me, that scene, you know. And if you've seen it, you probably know which one I'm talking about. It's kind of towards the third act of the film. And then the actual kind of third act, like the final 20-25 minutes of the film, is almost like a silent movie in the sense that it's just this visual, you know. There's hardly any dialogue, and it's just this experience. You know, that's the part I would have loved to have seen in the cinema. Just wonder, you know, wonder and intrigue and kind of a little bit of trepidation, you know, and kind of fear, you know, all these different kind of emotions stirred into this pot that create this really weird ending, you know. And the sound design, like the score is great. I loved the score and the different blends of the score, different types of instruments and different flavors of sounds that kind of accentuated the scenes as they were going on. But towards the very end of the film, it became more like, it felt like the score morphed into the sound design, which almost felt appropriate to the story. Which again, I really I got so drawn into, much like I did with The Last of Us, because it's dealing with cells and mutation, and it feels like something that could happen. You know, it feels plausible as far as, you know, science fiction goes. You know, you look at a film like Aliens. You know, it's you know, it's great films, but you don't really ever believe that stuff could happen. This felt like it was more on that level, like, well, yeah, it's possible, I don't know, you know, not that I'm saying I think it really is possible, but I can suspend my disbelief a lot easier with this kind of a film than something that is way too, you know, far out. And so the mutation element, I mean, you look at some of the things that do mutate in real life, the things that cells can react with each other and just create these things that kind of, you know, the creepy stuff. To me, that really weirds me out. When you put two elements together and this kind of like thing just grows, you know, and that's the stuff that this film plays on a little bit. But also, you know, like The Thing, you know, they're kind of trusting each other, and these women, you know, their allegiance gets tested and so on. And I just loved where it went. I loved where it played out. I thought it was a beautiful film. I thought it was a horrifying film, and it was an original film. Now, obviously, it's based on a book or a trilogy of books, but regardless, it's something that I feel like I hadn't really seen before, and was impressed by on almost every level. Yeah, there was another thing that I thought that the one part of the ending scene of the film kind of got played out a little bit too much, like maybe just like 10-15 seconds more than it needed to, where I was like, okay, I get it, you know. So there was, yeah, that was only the two things, was that and them walking in without any protection, you know, for their faces or anything, or, you know, for breathing. So two very minor nitpicks. Otherwise, I thought it was absolutely fantastic, and I would put it I'm not sure where, but it would be very high on my list of 2018 movies. If not the top 5, then just underneath. I thought it was a fantastic film. And let me know your thoughts down below. It's a film I feel like people are going to be digging into for a very long time and kind of dissecting. I've read somewhere that someone was making a big case about it being this big allegory or metaphor for cancer as far as the cells and the mutation and stuff. So much to look into. I loved it, thought it was fantastic. Before we finish, a little bit of spoiler talk. Now, I assume that you've seen the film, so you don't need me to really set anything up, but when her husband gets back, and he's not quite himself, he's sitting at the dinner table, and his hand is on the table, and there's a glass of water there, and she sits down, she puts her hand on the table, and she touches his hand, and we see the hands touching through the glass of water. We're seeing it through water, and to me that was like, you know, you're not seeing the full image, you're seeing a slight distortion of reality through this water. So I felt like he's not really him anymore. He looks like the real thing if you look through water, but it's not the full, clear, crisp, sharp image. That's what I thought. So by the end of the film I realized, yes, that's not really him. It's either a copy or a mutated version of him that came out of the shimmer. At the very end of the film, when we see Lena being, you know, having her kind of interrogation finished, her hand is on, I think, her lap or something, and we see, and she takes a drink of water, and she puts it down, and we see her hand, or part of her body, through the glass of water. That to me made me think, so she's not fully herself either. That was the linking moment to me that made me realise that you know, things weren't what they seem. And then the very end of the film, we see her hug the version of Kane that's there, and something in the eye kind of goes weird, where you think, oh, okay, she's not who she is. But to me, it was that glass of water that kind of made me think of the whole thing, and the idea of it, and looking through the water and seeing not the full thing on the other side. Anyway, that's it. That was just my minor little theory on the film, and just a clue more than anything about whether she was, you know, really the full deal when she came out of that thing. Anyway, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.
He's alright by me. Apart from the fact he throws cans of Carlin into a tree. Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool. But he's not quite as cool as you.